guys, welcome back to Clockwork Noodles for another breakdown of Summertime Render episode 17. Welcome back to the loop-de-loop. Before we get going, make sure you guys are subscribed. We are trying to hit 1k of subscribers by the end of the year so we can start doing live streams. Live streams are going to be really cool because I can then discuss with you guys live in the comments. So I can talk about my feelings about episodes. I might even be able to do breakdowns like this live with you guys, and then we can derail it as much as we want, start talking about things. This is what I planned for the channel, but I just need a few more noodles in the bowl before we can get going with this. The midway review is also up. Go check it out. My top 3 OP, ED, and current standing of anime. Did Summertime Render make any of those lists? Go and check it out. And that also means that the end of season review is about 5 episodes away. All of the anime airing is going to start getting interesting. They're going to start pulling out the big guns. That's what we tend to find with the seasons as they go. A lot of original animes will start light, they get the groundwork going, and then by the end, the second half, they get crazy. How crazy is everything going to get? Is my top 3 going to change? Let's jump into episode 9. We have a confirmed Ushio is dead. However, we still got the shell on us, and I don't know what the shell means. Maybe it's just a reminder. It could just possibly be a reminder because the shell existed before and there were 2 shells. Ushio originally had a shell that she found on the beach and I think he gave it to her. It's just a sad reminder for him. When Hane decides to taunt Shin about the loss of Ushio, does however just stand there and chat. She has foresight, but if she was acting fast enough, if she had basically said kill him without even giving Shinpei the chance to put his hand in his pocket, that could have been the ending right there. Shin gets very lucky that the plot has to happen. Hane for no reason stops her minions crushing poor Shin when he's literally just got a shell in his pocket. Doesn't really mean anything if you are confirming Ushio is dead. That was a bit of a weird moment. Hane does a U-turn on trying to kill him. We also get very lucky this week that everybody remembers Ushio's memory, so Shin doesn't need to waste any of his precious time repeating all of the information to them. We all agree to meet up. It does initially seem like a bit of a snap decision where the character is like, oh, we're gonna meet up here. I've already told the other 2. And me, I was like, wait, you didn't tell the other 2. You're on the phone to the first group. That's because it's not Shin. So I was gonna sin this, but I can't sin this because it makes sense. They tell them 2 different locations because we're trying to split them up. Hane is trying to split everybody up and wipe them all out in one last go because this is apparently the last loop. However, Hane is using a loophole, and this loophole is the fact that she can actually copy data and store it. She copied Shin back in episode 3. This is also how I think they might wiggle an ending out of this, because right now I can't see a ending where Shin and a group win. I can't see a happy ending. If this does end in a bad way, I would know this. The manga would be making rounds. People would be talking about the manga that ends bad. I don't think it's going to end bad. I'm still convinced they're going to try and pull a happy ending. Right now, can't see how it's going to happen, but the loophole might be the way Hane, so she's able to keep all of her data in those loops. Lucky for Shin, I think Mio's shadow being left behind is a very lucky break, because right now Shin was completely alone. I also believe Hane thinks Shin is alone. I don't think she's taken into account that Mio would have tried to leave Shadow Mio on the floor. I think the idea was they were going to kill both groups anyway, and they were just going to give Shin a chance to say, hey, I'm going to come and save this group, more as a sick, twisted plot, more than, oh yeah, you've got Mio with you. I think the way forward will be that Shadow Mio gets to go to one group and Shin will go to another group. Which group is he actually going to choose to appear? Because right now I have a feeling going to save Hizuru/Ryu is maybe top. Shin not really having any powers, going to Ryu/Hizuru. Hane is probably the best place for him, whilst I think Shadow Mio with powers saving a weak Mio, and so I think that is the best place for her, but whether they will play it like that. Shin has a twin. It's apparently Hane. The way they initially sold it was that Shin had a twin that had been birthed by Hane. I believe that it was very similar to Shide, where there's multiple copies. I don't think it is the case. I think it is just she's now using Shin's body as the vessel, which is really, really strange. But it's definitely setting up a death game episode this week. Every episode does sometimes go through different genres. We go through horror, sometimes we go through a bit of body gore, and we go for gore itself. Sometimes it's a mystery. This week we're going for a death game. Which group is he going to go and try and save? It all depends on whether they know that Shadow Mio got left behind, because they might believe that Shadow Mio is with Mio. My favourite character this week, and I think this character has been very high on my favourite list for a long time, is Hizuru. I believe Hizuru is the best character. And I know I keep saying my Tatsu, my goofy policeman is best character. He is my comic relief and I love him, but best character for me right now has to be Hizuru, because Hizuru is the only one who logically debates the possibility Shin has died. You said Ushu has died. Ushu was with Shin. If Ushu is dead, there is that possibility that Shin is dead. And this is probably a decision that saved lives, because Hizuru is the one who ends up going to the island. She also debates that it's not him on the phone. There was a nice fun comic relief moment this week, as we do still question why Tatsu is still with us. It's a nice moment. It's needed in a plot like this. These little fun tidbits, I think we need them. But for me this week, Hizuru and Ryu both carry this episode. These two characters, if it wasn't for these two this week, red flashing lights going, this anime is going to flunk the ending. And I still am very concerned that they're going to flunk the ending, or it's going to be pulled out and it's not going to be in line with how carefully crafted the rest of the first chunk is. I feel like it might start going downhill. They'll start to pull on a few, oh, we're doing this and it's plot armor. Hane Shin with the red eye does sadly throw out my entire theory. I did place a theory on the poster because they're using the poster with Shin with the eye colour. Made me think that there was a possible running link between all three characters. One of those characters is now dead. The other one is basically Hane. So I guess in a sense, it was probably a big hint that Shin is actually Hane, and we didn't pick up on it because a lot of us were perhaps not looking for it and are seeing those eyes, like me, jump into the conclusion that there was possibly a link between the two characters, where it does seem it was more just a right in front of your face without anyone even realising this is Hane in two forms. And here is your hint that at some point Shin is going to be taken over by Hane. But we are told something quite interesting, that Hane ended up regretting eating Ryu because it was her friend's brother. She ends up rejecting that part of her body because apparently it ended up extending her illness. So she was ill, her suddenly rejecting a body because she needed to eat to survive, that ended up making her even more sick. She cast out the good part of Hane. Oh my god, how could I do this? I feel terrible. She cast that bit out and that became Ushio. Ushio was born from a rejected Hane and she was a good Hane, which still makes me wonder if Ushio isn't dead, but I don't quite know how they're going to work it. She was part of a deity. It does, killing a deity is right up there. Shide is good, don't get me wrong, Shide is very good, but it was still a human Shide at the time wiping out Ushio. Whether the deity still remains, I'm not quite sure. But we do get a nice bit of power explaining this week. We explain how Ryu has those 2 seconds foresight ahead of everybody. It does explain how really cool they are when it comes to fighting. The OP's spoiler this week comes up in this episode because we see the 4-armed Shide on the beach. However, I think I remember seeing Shin facing Shide on the beach. Well, they could have made that up just to trick us and give us a bit of a red herring. I do think Shin is going to head to the island. To me, it makes more sense for him to go and square off against Hane because he might be able to talk or reason, or at least have more chance of doing something than going up against Shide when he's got no powers whatsoever. So just go straight to the boss and hope for the best makes sense. But it is a great battle, and I have got to praise Hizuru and Ryu being able to talk to one another and having a moment where they both exist in the same time, which is a bit weird. I'm not quite sure how this is a thing, whether it's because they're in the presence of Hane, not quite sure why they're both on screen at the same time conversing. Both aspects of herself to end up at least knocking a blow into Shide, even though it doesn't really mean anything. I love the fact that it's because they can factor in that they don't know if Shin is still alive, and the fact they know they're going to die tomorrow. They can basically fight with no barriers. This is basically it. There's no point being gentle with the body anymore if you're not gonna live. If you're gonna die here, it's over. If you survive, you're gonna die the next day probably anyway. So if you're not going all out right now, that's it. This is the moment where it is basically screw my body. I need to try and do everything I can. Great episode, but it's carried by Hizuru for me. It is carried by this character, so slightly concerned for the last 5 episodes. We have 5 episodes left now to the end. One of those is probably going to be like having the after consequences of whatever ending they choose. 4 episodes now to get out an ending, which makes sense. Follows the suit of how crafted the story is. I am a little concerned. Fingers crossed, hoping for the best, unless they're going to really dick us over and give us a second season next year at some point so they can end on a really big cliffhanger. What I can see when I did a light search is that the actual source material is over. I haven't seen anything other than just seeing if it was over or not. It is over. I don't know how much material there is, but if that story is over, it's a possibility that they can wrap it up in just 24 episodes. We will see. I hope you guys are taking care of yourselves and having a good week. Have a good day, guys. Bye bye.